This race is heating up with a new Gray TV Fox 8 poll released today, giving insight into the concerns that matter most to the voters. Maddie Kurtz joins us with the key issues candidates will need to impress their constituents with this fall. Maddie.
Well, Lauren, in this Mason-Dixon poll, 625 registered voters in Louisiana were interviewed over the telephone, and all indicated they were likely to vote in the October 14th primary election. Even with unemployment numbers declining, most of those voters have their eyes on the job market.
In less than a month, Louisiana voters will head to the polls and cast their primary vote toward electing a new governor.
People need to earn enough money to be able to put food on the table for their children.
A new statewide Gray TV Fox 8 poll shows most voters agree the economy is their top concern, and they will be choosing the candidate they believe can best boost the state's job market.
What we're seeing differences on is how the candidates want to grow the state, what industry sectors they'll focus on. That's one of the differences in this campaign.
Second on most voters' minds are Louisiana's rising crime rates.
It means that they're actually experiencing more crime or perceiving more crime around them with their neighbors. So that is concerning. However, that sort of matches a national trend that we see right now.
Not all gubernatorial campaigns are focused on those main issues in their advertisements. Fox 8 political analyst Mike Sherman says that's because many candidates have been seeking greater recognition.
Before the candidates can have a message about crimes, jobs, education, schools, they have to first introduce themselves to voters. What stands out is that Jeff Landry is the only candidate right now who's widely known to voters. So the other candidates need to first introduce themselves.
One notable change from Fox 8's similar polling in the 2019 election came in satisfaction with the way the state is operating overall. 4 years ago, most of the voters we polled said the state was on the right track, and incumbent Governor John Bel Edwards won re-election. This year, Edwards is term limited, and 61% of those polled say things are on the wrong track.
So they're going to largely find a candidate with a similar message.
Going to have a new governor no matter what, and so therefore the right track, wrong track numbers don't mean as much from a voting behavior standpoint.
Republican Jeff Landry is the current frontrunner, leading with 40% of the vote among poll respondents. Democrat Shawn Wilson was next in the poll with 24% of the support from those polled. Lauren?
All right, Maddie, thank you very much. Fox 8 will host a gubernatorial debate at the University of New Orleans. John Snell will be the moderator Tuesday at September 26th from 7 until 8 p.m. He will be joined by a panel of 4 journalists from stations across the state. And to be invited to this debate, candidates have to poll at least 5% in our poll. And so far, Shawn Wilson and Stephen Waguespack have confirmed, but we are expecting to get word soon from Jeff Landry.